was a very arrogant, self-serving move on his part. He just saw an attempt to try to secure a majority government, and that mattered more to him than anything else, whether it was the Delta wave of COVID or absolutely horrible way in which thousands and thousands of Afghans were abandoned in Afghanistan. And frankly, it's disgusting.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Youth in Politics Show. We're finally back after a long break, and this time we're on an important mission to cover the election, the 2021 Canadian general elections. On August 21st, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called a snap election after leading a minority government for 2 years. This led to mixed reactions from Canadians all over the country. This election is really important, especially to me, as it is my first time I am legally allowed to vote, and I am very excited and looking forward to it. Well, today, our guest for today serves as the MP for the riding of Parry Sound, Muskoka. He was elected in 2019, and prior to that, he served as the mayor of Huntsville, Ontario. Joining me right now, we got Member of Parliament, Scott Aitchison. Scott, how's it going?
It's great. How are you, Zubair?
I'm doing great.
Great.
So the first question I have is that, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called an election during a pandemic, and there's a lot of mixed reactions with this. And a lot of Canadians had a lot of mixed reactions. What was your reaction when you found out there was going to be an election?
Well, my reaction was that it was a very arrogant, self-serving move on his part, because he obviously is interested in his political fortunes more than anything else. And he just saw an attempt to try to secure a majority government, and that mattered more to him than anything else, whether it was the Delta wave of COVID or the absolutely horrible way in which the thousands and thousands of Afghans were abandoned in Afghanistan, and people that helped our service men and women and kept them alive for years over there. His electoral fortunes were the most important thing to him, and frankly, it's disgusting.
Right. And how does the Conservative Party see this? Do they have the same views?
Yeah, I think so. They might not use the word disgusting, but they definitely agree that it was an unnecessary election. I think that we all recognize, and the party certainly does, that Trudeau was gunning for this. He was watching the polls, and the party certainly recognizes that as well. But the important thing, I think, for Canadians to know is that we were ready, just because we knew that this was coming, and we knew he had to be ready in case he did actually pull the trigger. And what I find interesting, of course, is the Conservative Party and Erin O'Toole certainly has been more prepared at this when the election dropped than it seemed even Justin Trudeau was prepared in his Liberal Party. So I'm actually really quite proud of our team, proud of Erin. I think he's done a great job. And Justin Trudeau just, even though he's the guy that called the election, just doesn't seem ready. So,
well, speaking of Erin O'Toole is currently leading in the polls, and if he is elected, there is a chance that he may be elected, and it might be a minority government for the Conservative Party. And Erin O'Toole says if he's elected, he will implement something called the GST Holiday for the month of December, which means that all purchases at retail stores will be a tax-free for a month, and ultimately this goal is to increase consumer spending. How will this increase consumer spending? What do you think the reaction of the public will be when it comes to a GST holiday?
Well, I think if we look at what's going on in our country right now, the cost of living is going up everywhere. Things are more expensive. Everything from gas to groceries to clothing, everything that people need to spend money on, what families need, is getting more expensive. And I think a GST tax holiday is something in particular around Christmas time that I think is just a little extra help for Canadians who are struggling to, get by with the added expense of everyday life. And then, of course, the holiday season will be upon us. I think it's just a added extra little bit to help people out.
Right. Well, how will a GST holiday help businesses in particular?
Right. Businesses in particular, I think it's important for those small businesses, that have been, many of them have been closed for, significant periods of time during the COVID lockdowns. I think any added business that they can get is a good thing for them, because small business is the backbone of our entire economy, and we need to support them and help them get going again as well. The entire Conservative platform is about getting this country back on track, getting this country moving again, getting people working, getting small businesses, firing on all cylinders, and making sure our economy is moving forward and people are being productive. And Canada is a productive, country and an important trading country in the world. And we need to make sure we're doing those things. So that's really what it's about.
Right. Going on to trade and foreign relations, especially with what's happening with Afghanistan. If the conservative government is elected and it's in power, how will the situation in Afghanistan differ from what the Liberal government is doing right now?
Well, I think it's important to point out that we certainly don't call the Taliban our brothers. We recognize that they are a terrorist organization, and I think that it's important to treat them that way, and recognize that the way the Liberals handled this was a disaster. We need to do more to help our friends and allies who supported us and helped us that need to get out of Afghanistan. We need to do more, and a conservative government would do more.
So the conservative government would not recognize the Taliban as an official government?
Aaron O'Toole has announced that we would not recognize them as the official government. The Taliban is a terrorist organization, not a legitimate government.
Right. And say in the future, if the United States does hypothetically recognize them as an official government, will Canada's opinion on that change?
Well, I don't know exactly how Canada's foreign policy would evolve in that kind of a circumstance. Obviously, I think that if the Taliban was to be recognized by other governments in the world, there would have to be a number of things that they do differently, and I suspect that an awful lot of those things that they'd have to do differently would center around human rights and freedoms, and I suspect very strongly that if they measured up to standards that I think the Canadians would expect in terms of freedoms and rights, many of those freedoms and rights that we actually fought for the Afghan people. And I think that there probably could be steps where they could be recognized if they met a standard that's that's worthy of the sacrifice that certainly Canadians made and many other Western countries made in Afghanistan.
Right. When it comes to interpreters who help the Canadian military in Afghanistan, what is the conservative government going to do about them?
Well, I think we need to do more to support those individuals who want to get out. I think what we heard from the current Liberal government was you're on your own. See if you can get to a land border. Maybe we can help you if you get out on your own. It's really quite a shameful testimony. In terms of what Canada is or is not doing to support people that literally risk their lives to save our soldiers. And now they are at risk. They are targeted by the Taliban. They're targeted by ISIS. In our time of need, they were there for us, and in their time of need, we've just abandoned them. It's not right. It's not Canadian, and we need to do more.
Right. Well, is there a possibility that the Canadian military will intervene in Afghanistan?
I have no idea. Obviously, that's the kind of thing that that's not decided by people like me in a campaign. That's obviously decided by the Prime Minister's office and the Minister of Defense and discussions amongst cabinet. So I wouldn't want to begin to comment on whether that would be the case or not.
Now, in terms of the campaign itself, how's the campaign going so far?
Well, I think it's going really well. Certainly going well for me here in Parry Sound, Muskoka. Things are going well. And I think nationally it's going very well also. I'm, as I said at the beginning, I'm really, really pleased with the job that Aaron O'Toole is doing. I think, he came out strong, very clear. I think maybe a lot of Canadians didn't really know much about Aaron. And as this campaign has started, I think a lot of Canadians are just relieved to see a leader of a national party actually answer questions instead of talking in circles and pandering about what they think and what they care about and what their values are. Aaron's answering questions directly about what a conservative government would do to solve the problems we have in this country, everything from a housing crisis from coast to coast to coast to, rural broadband internet problems and access and affordability to, cell service affordability to, transit problems in the larger cities. I mean, the Liberal government has been making promises and talking in circles for years. And Aaron O'Toole has just given straight, clear answers about precisely what a conservative government would do. I think Canadians are finding that quite refreshing as a contrast to Mr. Trudeau, who kind of waxes on but doesn't really say anything and promises the world but doesn't really get anything done.
Right. Well, when it comes to the campaign itself, if Aaron O'Toole is elected as the Prime Minister of Canada, Well, the indigenous communities see clean drinking water in the communities.
Well, the Conservative Party and Aaron O'Toole has made a strong commitment to reconciliation, to solving the boil water advisories that still exist on way too many First Nations communities. We've made that commitment, and I will say this: I will give the government a little bit of credit. The current government has made some tremendous progress, but we need to do more, and we need to get that job done. So, absolutely, Aaron O'Toole has made that commitment, and our party definitely makes that commitment as well.
Right, I agree. Finally, the last question that we're going to be touching on is our entire platform, Youth in Politics. Youth in Politics is a student-led organization which is there to inform youth about politics and current world issues and ultimately get them involved when it comes to the election process itself. How do you think Aaron O'Toole looks in front of the young people? What kind of policies would Aaron O'Toole do for young people like me when it comes to education, when it comes to just ourselves? Like, will there be a cabinet ministry representing youth itself?
Well, I can't speak to any of that, of course. Those are the decisions that are made, by the Prime Minister, obviously, and his office. But I think it's important that, to point out that, as a conservative, on the Heritage Committee is a good example. I just spent, the spring fighting, the Liberal government's Bill C-10, which, threatened the, freedom of expression of Canadians and young people online on social media. We would scrap that bill. And of course, when you speak about education, education, I think, is one of the most important elements of our social system. Education is the way to lift people up. And, we've made strong commitments to supporting education, particularly post-secondary education, through transfers to the provinces. We've also made a really strong commitment to help provinces with healthcare funding. It's important to point out that, the universal healthcare system we have was created, 70 years ago with a promise by the federal government to pay 50% of the costs, but we've never lived up to that promise. And so one of the things that, our party has committed to is to increasing transfers for healthcare to the provinces to the tune of $60 billion. Well, I can tell you, when the federal government pays their fair share of those really big ticket items like healthcare, which consumes, more than half of most provincial budgets, and the federal government is a real legitimate partner like they promised to be in the 1950s, then that frees up money for provinces to invest more in education as well. It's important for the federal government to be a legitimate and honest partner, and we really haven't been for generations. And that's one of the things that Aaron O'Toole seeks to fix, and a Conservative government would.
Scott, I wish you the best of luck in your campaign, and thank you for joining us on our show today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Audio Jungle.